She forgot what she liked to eat, and eventually she forgot even to eat. She had an eye surgery that she ended up with an infection, and we ended up having to do a prosthesis for an eye, and she took her eye out one day and hid it, and she didn't even know that she had a fake eye. And we looked all over for the house, and it wasn't until after she passed away that I found it on the top shelf in the freezer.
In a restaurant, she could not go to a bathroom by herself. She wouldn't find the restroom. She wouldn't find her way back. She just needed total supervision.
When she was in the hospital, we told her she was at a spa in Bagdestein, and that was her favorite place to be. And the hospital food was fabulous. The nurses were wonderful. They were all the people from the spa. And she couldn't understand how her doctor was taking a trip at the same time and ended up at the same spa in Bagdestein.
And one time, I did see her crying. No, she wasn't crying. She was sitting at the couch, just very, very sad. And I sat next to her, and I said, "Mom, what's the matter?" And she said, she said, "There's something going on in my head. And I don't know what it is, but all I know is it scares me to death." And she broke down and cried really, really hard. And I just held her and I said, "Mom, you don't have to worry. I will never abandon you." And that comforted her, actually.
Then there were times that it was really horrific, because she would start screaming that there were strange things in her room. She would see cows walking across the floor. She would see strange people looking at her through the windows, and she was actually terrified.
And so I knew that the silent suffering of people that have Alzheimer's, that they at times may not even be able to verbalize anymore, but it's inside of them. They know that their brain is giving out on them, and they suffer intensely with that, and that was very hard for me.
I think the hardest thing was the day I walked in and she asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And I'm 56 years old, and it was hard to think that she would not know her own daughter. She forgot to eat, she forgot how to swallow, she forgot everything. And they try to help you through all that, but watching it is very, very difficult.
Initially, when I understood what was happening with my mother, I was very sad. And I would, when I would watch her struggle with her increasingly disability, I would sometimes have to leave the room because I didn't want to cry in front of her. She had had a very hard life, and she had many years of suffering ahead of her, and that was very hard for me.
I have a brother, and he didn't come down very much, and I think that was his way of coping with having to see her going downhill. And he left everything up to us here. So, I think that all of us had a different way of coping with the Alzheimer's and with her as a patient with Alzheimer's.
I had one experience one night when she kept vomiting, and I literally went through like 11 sheets in 2.5 hours. And it was cold, it was the Bay Area, it was foggy, it was very tired, and I was a little bit short with my mother in that I pulled her across the bed, not so kind, and because I was really tired and frustrated, and I immediately stopped myself and I sat down and I said to myself, now, why are you taking care of your mother? What was your reason for doing that? I mean, would you ever allow yourself to mistreat her in any way? And I felt a lot of remorse, and I just silently made a vow that I would never ever do that again. And I can honestly sit here and say that I never did that again.
My husband would play jokes on her, with her, for her, and I mean, we all can laugh about it now, and it gives us some funny things to remember. But I also think it was his way of coping with trying to deal with her. He's always been one to be a jokester, and she and Tony would always, they could get each other going. And when she just couldn't remember anything, it was his way of dealing with her and with dealing with the disease. And it was very comical.
The Alzheimer's Association is part of a national voluntary health organization. It's actually the largest national voluntary health organization in the nation that supports and provides services for families with Alzheimer's disease and their families. Our mission is to provide supportive services, programs, education, advocacy, research to families here in San Diego County and the patients that they take care of.
We also, at the end, had hospice. And I have to say that it's the greatest group of people I have ever in my life dealt with. They are really big help, and they would come twice a day when she first got in, and then towards the end, when we knew she was going downhill very fast, they were there constantly. They were just, I don't know how you describe what a great group of people they were. And they had a chaplain, and she came afterwards and met with the family. She came and counseled us, and she couldn't have been a more wonderful, loving person. And these people are all volunteers, and they have love in their hearts for everybody, and we felt it as a family.
She went to a daycare in the community. They would come every day and pick her up, and they would also bring her home, and she absolutely loved it. The daycare provided an incredible service for her, and I appreciated that a lot.
We would say that there's approximately 50,000 people who suffer from this disease. And when you think about that, that's 50,000 people who require 1 to 3 to maybe even 5 people providing care, various levels of care for that individual. So we estimate that it impacts about 240,000 people in the county of San Diego alone. And that's like filling Qualcomm Stadium, 3-4 times over. As far as the disease process and whether it affects different cultural groups differently, there are some studies that show that groups such as in the African American group and the Latino Hispanic group are at greater risk for developing different chronic diseases like diabetes and hypertension that actually increase their risk of developing dementias or Alzheimer's disease by 3 to 8 times. It's inevitable that our minority populations are going to increase about 3 times faster than Caucasian communities. So we're going to have to become more culturally sensitive and competent in how we deliver services to these communities. I think I was reading a research article written by Dr. Ramon Valle, who was a professor at San Diego State University and a leader in dementia and Latino community. And he estimates that by the year 2050, about 33% of those affected by Alzheimer's disease will be of minority descent, in comparison to 12% of the population now. So, message is to learn as much as you can about this disease, to learn about the warning signs, because there's a lot of medications now that are very effective in helping patients with Alzheimer's disease if you can diagnose them early. So learn the warning signs, visit resource centers. Like our organization, we have a tremendous library with all kinds of fact sheets and books and material that you can check out or you can take with you about the disease. Learn about ways to reducing some risk factors that might be environmental. For instance, diseases that are due to environmental factors such as just basically nutrition and exercise, which reduce your risks of developing chronic diseases that increase your risk factors of developing dementia or Alzheimer's disease. When they call our information and referral number, which is our helpline, is finding where the resources are. So a nurse, in an essence, could be a really good advocate or broker for the family, for the caregivers, by knowing where to refer families for more information. Our statistics, we have estimates that Alzheimer's disease is the 4th leading cause of death among people over the age of 65. And that's 4th to, number 1 would be heart disease, number 2 would be strokes, number 3 is cancer, and Alzheimer's disease would be 4. There's still a lot of myths about this disease and how it affects the individual, and a lot of times even doctors are very unaware of the disease and the symptoms. So a lot of times somebody might have Alzheimer's disease and they will start behaving differently and will start being agitated or wandering and things of that nature. And the family will call the doctor and ask them what's going on. They'll say, oh, it's just Alzheimer's disease. And I think it's really important in the medical field that people don't excuse all symptoms and changes to the disease. In fact, the disease, the progression of the disease, is a slow decline in cognitive function and memory, in physical function. And any rapid change, any peaks in that decline means something else is happening to the individual. It could be an infection, urinary tract infection, which is extremely common, especially among the women with Alzheimer's disease who have some incontinence. That could be treated with an antibiotic and the symptoms go away.
I think what you have to realize is that they have no control over what they're thinking. And it's not meant at you personally. It's a disease. And it's like any other thing that you have no control over. And when they look at you and they don't know you, or when they say things that they don't mean, well, at the time I think they're saying them, but they say hurtful things a lot, and you have to understand that they don't know what they're doing, and it's not at you personally.
The biggest thing that I would love for people to really, really look at before they approach anyone with Alzheimer's is the thought, what if I was that person right now? What if I was that person right now? How would I like to be treated? Alzheimer people, they don't like to be startled. They don't like to be asked questions that they know their brain is not able to answer. They don't like loud noises. They they always respond to kindness. Even the most combative Alzheimer patient will remember you if you're kind and will not be combative with you as such. Because I made that a project when I was an administrator in a nursing home, to approach combative people and always responded kindly, no matter how combative they were. And then the next day they would not be combative to me. They would have a smile when they would see me. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that the medical staff can provide, is that kind of loving care and understanding for these people. Oh yes, my mother passed away at home. Matter of fact, it was one of the things that I mostly probably struggled with taking care of my mother. Was I always said, "Dear God, please don't let her die when I'm alone with her." I wanted her to feel that love to the very end. And but at the same time, I had fear if I was able emotionally to do that. And it occupied my mind a lot. My daughter woke me up at 7. She rang me on the phone. And she said, "Mom, I feel I need to come over this morning to be with Oma," which is the German word for grandmother. And I said, "If you feel that, you should really come." And my son, who was in the house, came upstairs from the downstairs bedroom. And I had this strong urge. Like I said, I slept on an A crate next to my mother. I had this strong urge to kneel by her bedside and hold her. And I did it. I knelt and I said to my daughter, "I need to hold Mom right now." And I rolled my mom over and I put her in my arm. And I just felt there was the sweetest smile. And she went, and we were all there with her. And there was just so much peace, and I just felt so loved myself. I felt incredibly loved that I was not alone when my mother died. I was able to hold her, and everybody felt very, very peaceful that she had the nice passing that she had. She was a joy, and I would do it again. I would take care of her again. There was so much more positive than negative caring for her that I would just do it again. Miss you, Mom.
Miss me, but let me go. When I come to the end of the road, and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all a part of the Master's plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick at heart, go to the friends we know, and bury your sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go.